look who just got married. Mark Sanchez, Fox NFL analyst. Yep, congratulations. I had the over. Mark Sanchez is married. All right.
New hardware.
Did you cry? Okay.
Oh, like a baby.
Really?
Like a baby. She actually, here's why, because she woke up early today to help set me up. You can ask the people backstage getting this whole thing set up, but we're on a little vacation here before the season kicks off and before my son's school starts. So, we make a good team, I think.
Okay, but when she walks down,
got a lot of work to do. It's a tough conference, tough division. Got a lot of good couples out there. We got to be in it at the end, crescendo at the right time.
I like that.
All that stuff.
Yeah. When do you start crying at your wedding?
So we wrote our own vows, and I knew I was going to tear up when the lights come on, when it's game time, because the couple of times I'm writing, you get a little choked up and you're just like, that's ridiculous. Come on, like tighten up, big guy, a lot like Fritzy, maybe, like back in my day. And so, I hit the, real men don't cry kind of thing. And then whatever, you wrestle with that for a little bit. And then lights came on and it was game time. And sure enough, the waterworks came on too.
You threw an interception. You threw a pick six right away.
I wouldn't go that far.
All right. Let me let me start with college football a little bit. You, of course, USC alum.
Yeah.
How did this happen? How did all of this did it happen? And is there any bigger picture solution in your opinion?
Well, I think this whole realignment or NIL or both, or they're kind of, responsible for each other in different ways. I think in maybe 10 years when there's like some legit guardrails on everything and we kind of look back and say, oh yeah, okay, well that probably made sense there. And here's the real straw that broke the camel's back. But I think one of them had to be this chasing a national TV or national media model, right? Because way back in the day, right, in black and white with Fritzy, it was like, get your regional guys, and go fight, play against the other guys that are in their region and see who's better, right? Oh, wow, USC, Notre Dame, we got a railway that will take these teams together and unite the country. Well, those were like the beginnings of what we're seeing today. And with the Pac-12 and the lack of a national media model, SC's like, we got to go, boys. We got to get out of here. We got to chase this stuff if we're going to be on TV and be relevant and show these kids in Florida, Texas, and all on the East Coast, everywhere else that, hey, football is big here, because it's not like when Matt Leinart and Reggie Bush were playing that everybody on the Eastern Seaboard would tune into that 11 o'clock game, in LA. So now without that vehicle to basically promote yourself and help recruit, they got to go to something bigger. And the Big Ten was the answer. When it comes to NIL, I mean, it's the wild, wild west right now. I think at some point there'll be some guardrails and rules, but I find it hard. I wouldn't want to be the person in the position to blow the whistle first on somebody for breaking a rule, right? Especially right now, especially with the way the NCAA kind of looks publicly, like their public image isn't beautiful and shiny and sweet. It's a little like, hey man, you guys have been holding these players down for a long time and now they're getting paid. You guys kind of blew that. And what's going on with conferences? Is there really an NCAA? There's a lot of questions about that. So
would you have stayed longer at USC with NIL if you were getting paid?
It's interesting because I've thought about this quite a bit in the last year, and it's not to say. It's hard to say now in retrospect, looking back, saying like, well, if they would have offered me $10 million, maybe I don't go. Are you staying for the money? I don't know. Is the money a new thing? Is it in that last year that they say, hey, here's $10 million, you stay, it's yours, it's all legal and above board? Shoot, that would have made me think about it at least one more time. I can't guarantee I wouldn't have made the same decision, but it was part of that was if I'm staying, the chances of getting hurt, the chances of this new CBA coming down, the chances, whatever, like it was just the right time for me personally in that moment. But, I've heard stories about CJ Stroud and these guys at, different programs where it's like, he was going to leave. He obviously left, but he was going to leave, and they put together a pretty nice package for him to stay.
How much did you
And
hear?
I don't know. I've heard different numbers. I've heard anywhere from 10 to 20, and I was just like, whoa, because if it's that high, then we're talking something serious, right? Like, what's he going to get paid on his rookie deal? 25, 28, 29? I don't know what the first year is, but it's slotted now. And then to go back, compete for a Heisman, compete for a national championship, potentially have those two things in your pocket, plus let's just call it $15 million. I mean,
I know.
I don't know. That's not too bad. If you were even in any way hesitant about going to the next level, skill wise, maturity wise, physically, emotionally, anything like that, shoot. If I'm his parents, I'm like, well, I know a safe option.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
that's true.
So
we're talking to Mark Sanchez, Fox NFL analyst, trying to figure out if you're the Texans and you got C.J. Stroud or Bryce Young,
yep.
How much do you play in the preseason if you know they are going to be your starter week one?
Sure. Well, I think, okay, the old school model that I was a part of and I can speak to was, the first game, there used to be 4 preseason games, number one. Now there's 3. But the first game, you get about a quarter-ish, a series, maybe 2, right? A total of anywhere from 8 to 15 kind of plays, basically, because you can't guarantee with the way the game plays out. Second game, you're playing at least 2 to 3 drives, right around middle of the second quarter, whatever. Depends. If you go out and blow it out of the water, have 2 scoring drives, boom, get his ass out of there and keep him healthy and upright, throw in some sandals, give him some sunflower seeds, and let him watch the rest. Third game is like your dress rehearsal. You'll go through the first half, get into the third quarter, at least 1 drive in the third quarter, and then after that, you kind of shut it down. The fourth game was to round out the bottom of your roster, and then, you go play in about, I think it's like 10 days after that fourth game. Now, with just the 3 chances in preseason, that third game has become the game to kind of round out the roster. Now guys play about a quarter, maybe 2 quarters in the first and second game. And the idea is just to get them live reps at situations. You want them having to handle third downs. You want them to have handle, first and second downs that you can rep, in practice anyway. But you want them to do a 2-minute drill. You want them to have a third and long, a third and short, a red zone opportunity. You just want to simulate those as best you can, keep him upright while maintaining his health for the season, and then let him go play. Now, with the introduction of all these joint practices, or maybe the growing popularity of these joint practices, you can get a lot of those reps in those scenarios because you can script it a certain way, and that defense is trying to tee off. Now, the chances of you getting just completely blown up in a joint practice as a quarterback are much, much lower than a real preseason game, because in a real preseason game, you're wearing the same color jersey. In the joint practice, they're told still not to get near the quarterback, but inevitably there's a guy who's trying to make the roster and trying to make a name for himself, and he might beat somebody around the edge, and he's coming for you, so he's going to give you a little contact. But bottom line is you're balancing those 2 things, and I don't know how any of the GMs or coaches have any fingernails left after preseason, because these guys are watching, their new shiny toy at Christmas, and it's that remote control car, and there goes the neighbor just playing with it, and you're like, oh God, so you're just scared that something's going to happen.
I saw this video of Trayvon Diggs picking off Dak Prescott a couple of times and then talking trash to him. And I'm wondering, how often does that happen? If you threw an interception in practice, would the defense, really, Trayvon Diggs was not holding back. I mean, he was calling out Dak Prescott.
Yeah, I've seen the clip. I think, those kind of things in that moment. I mean, you never know what went into it. And it's kind of funny because after those things happen at practice, you're already fine with your relationship with that player has already been mended, even if it were ever broken or frayed, I guess. And then you got to go talk to the media about it, and then they kind of remind you about it. So I wouldn't think, it's not like, he said that to Dak, and Dak was just like tail between his legs like a sad puppy and walking in the locker room like, man, I got no friends. I don't think that's the case at all. I think it's just incredibly competitive, and that kind of tense environment, and that's what you want. Now, people are going to have their take on it because it was cut out of context and then pasted everywhere for everyone to see, but I don't see a problem with it. And it also depends on the players, like their relationship. I mean, Bart Scott used to rip my head off all the time. I could barely get my first couple snap counts off because he's screaming at me, yelling at me, you Richie Valens looking La Bamba mother, you know what, and this and that. And, hey, Nacho, hey, what's the snap count, Nacho? He's screaming at me. And
Rex Ryan Rex didn't want to stop that?
Nah, come on. It was great. It's what your rookie quarterback goes through. And those are like the growing pains. But then a guy like that, like Bart, dude's got your back. Like if anybody cheap shot at me or something, like that's the dude who would sprint on the field. Same thing with Mangold. Same thing with those. Like they just have your back. And it's like, this is a part of your growing pains, young guy, but you're one of us. They got their arm around you at the same time. A little different between Dak and Trayvon because they're, similar age, or Dak's a little older, whatever. So, but that's the way it's supposed to be. You're supposed to cultivate this environment that's so competitive that pushes you to the edge right when it's about to break out into a fight. And then you literally just walk away or stand still and let them get the penalty. You know what I mean? That was like an old Pete Carroll thing. We push it to the brink, like right to the edge of the cliff, and let them jump off. We don't jump off. We don't lose our cool.
Where do you stand on this Eric Bieniemy Commanders story where Bieniemy, I guess, is being rough on the players? He says he's intense, he's old school, and they went to Ron Rivera to complain about Eric Bieniemy yelling at them.
What are you going to get from Ron? I mean, Ron's a tough old school dude too.
I don't know. I mean, the new athlete is not used to being yelled at.
I mean, but yeah, sure. But I think it's like, who are you? Who's going to come to save the day? The guy who played linebacker in the league, 3 CBAs ago? Come on now. I don't know if that's the right.
But Rivera talked about it. That's the problem. He told the media about it instead of keeping that in-house.
I feel like it was. So I didn't see the interview. I had heard rumblings of this, and I mean, there's so many media outlets searching for something right now to grab onto.
Yeah, timing is everything. Timing is everything.
And so I don't know necessarily what would make Coach want to say that, but maybe it's like, hey, maybe his intention was like, we brought the right guy in. He's ruffled some feathers around here, and that's what we want. Once again, Trayvon Diggs and Bart and Dak Prescott, Bart Scott and me as a young rookie. It's like, get this stuff as tough as you can and simulate every tough situation you possibly can, because I guarantee we're going to get them. If these are the toughest situations we get all season, boys, we're gravy. Like, we are good. And that's the idea of training camp. Simulate the toughest, hardest stuff, just like military training. And then when it happens in the season, boom, I've done it. I've been there. I know what to do. A lot like, Fritzy. Somebody had to tell him to get his freaking hands out of his pocket in the sound check so he could go up there and have the stage presence we know he has. I thought I would have seen a little Shirelles, like a little hand, boom, something, a little something. But my man was just like, Flat Stanley up there.
Fritzy was sort of our Napoleon Dynamite when he gets up on stage, where he's not even really engaging with the audience, hands in his pockets, and but he got through it. I mean, he did. He did. He stood there.
I'm proud of him.
Stood there like a champion. Stood there like a champion. Well, congrats on the nuptials, as we like to say.
Thanks,
just take it one anniversary at a time, okay?
Yeah, I'm trying.
Just one anniversary at a time. All right?
Yeah.
Thank you, bud. Good to talk to you again.
Appreciate you guys.
Mark Sanchez, Fox NFL analyst, former NFL USC quarterback.